Trump's 4th of July speech. I mean, I just can't. I can't get over his ignorance. I just can't get over it. I mean, Washington Post had a critique. President Trump broke with decades of tradition Thursday by not only attending the Independence Day celebration on the Mall, but making a speech as part of his salute to America. It wasn't the usual lock her up, no collusion, fake news bullshit. With the aid of a teleprompter, the president spoke for 45 minutes about U.S. history, especially military history. Or as he described it, quote, the greatest story ever told, the story of America. I would challenge that. I mean, historians, at least the ones fact-checking this asshole, were not impressed. One said his speech was like, quote, an angry grandpa reading a fifth grader's book report on American military history, end quote. Right. Trump opened with an account of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That's what he said. On this day, 24 years ago, our founding fathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to declare independence and defend our God-given rights. No. The Continental Congress voted to declare independence from Great Britain on July 2nd, 1776. On July 4th, they approved the final text of the Declaration. They signed it on August 2nd. Never mind. Just trivial little facts. They're like cockroaches. They just scatter when Trump comes around. There were inaccuracies like this peppered throughout the speech. The president still seems to not know exactly who Frederick Douglass is. He put it this way, quote, Douglass, Frederick Douglass, the great Frederick Douglass is... But Trump was especially befuddled when he described the creation of the U.S. Army. He said this, quote, yesterday, in June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter at Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. And at Fort McHenry, under the rocket's red glare, it had nothing but victory. And when dawn came, their star-spangled banner waved defiant. This ignorant fucker said this. This was the president. A lot to unpack here. First, it's clear that this ignorant savage was having some difficulty with the teleprompter, which led to a number of errors. For example, General Cornwallis was not of Yorktown. He was of London. He was British. He was defeated at Yorktown. The Continental Army wasn't named after Washington. It's possible Trump substituted the word named for a different verb in the text of the speech, probably because he's such an ignorant pissant. Earlier today, Trump confirmed he had problems with the teleprompter. He told journalists, quote, I guess the rain knocked out the teleprompter, so it's not that, but I knew the speech very well, so I was able to do it without a teleprompter, but the teleprompter did go out, and it was actually hard to look at anyway because there was rain all over it. End quote. Of course, that doesn't explain the apparent conflation of two wars fought 30 years apart. In the first part, Trump mentions Valley Forge, crossing the Delaware, and Yorktown. all of which occurred during the Revolutionary War. Then he says, and at Fort McHenry, under rockets' red glare, it had nothing but victory, and when dawn came, the Star-Spangled Banner waved defiant. Well, that describes the battle in American mythology where the national anthem was written. However, the battle was fought in 1814 during the War of 1812. 30 years later. But never mind. Then there's the claim that the Army, either in 1775 or 1814, or sometime in between, the Army, quote, took over the airports. Which is odd when you get right down to it, when you know earlier in the speech, when Trump noted earlier in the speech that the Wright brothers first flew at Kitty Hawk in 1903. But never mind. Was that another fuck up because of teleprompter problems? Trump claimed it was this morning. When a reporter asked about the airport line, Trump said, actually, in the middle of the sentence, it went out. And that's not a good feeling. This ignorant piece of shit needs a teleprompter to tell him there were no airports during the Revolutionary War? Apparently he does. By late last night, trending on Twitter was hashtag Revolutionary War airports and Revolutionary War airport stories. And also, Trump went down that list of famous Americans. Some angry Canadians would like you to know that when Alexander Graham Bell got the first U.S. patent for the telephone, he was a Scottish immigrant to Canada. But never mind. Now, the question I would have, or the observation I would have, I should say, is that I will guarantee you that not a single Trump supporter found anything in this fucked up speech to question just from an historical aspect. Nothing. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.